You know what really gets Chucky's juices flowing? Throw him in a bin full of half-used medical syringes. He gets off on that. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did. If you haven't already, go ahead and like, share, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. Fifth episode of Chucky series on USA and Sci-Fi called Little Little Lies. Like other episodes in this series, this picks up right after the last episode. Before we kind of get into review and recap of this episode, this is probably the first episode that has a direct tie to the end or the most recent versions of the Chucky series that have been direct to video with Cult of Chucky and Curse of Chucky. So this previously the series is kind of just always assumed that either you were in by maybe it stopped at Bride or Seed of Chucky, and then that was the end of it. And so the people who have continued on will have a bit lineage. This one strains a bit of that relationship that if you were not sticking with Chucky, you may not quite understand what the hell is happening in the flashback or back end of this episode. But we'll get into that shortly. This one does pick up right after the previous episode. Chucky's all burnt up and everybody's kind of separated after they find the body of the police officer in the room. So in this episode, Caroline and her dad are in the hospital as she sort of starts to come back to. She does that spazzing out there. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. If she was a kid of a black parent, they'd slap the shit out of her. She's a little too needy, and like she went from me thinking she was a special needs child to no, she's just annoying and gets whatever she wants. She's spoiled rotten, and I sort of see why Lexi ends up the way she is because she just probably just not getting any attention. But Caroline starts freaking out. I want Chucky. I want Chucky. I want Chucky now. And so Dad shows her Chucky, and the Chucky doll is very burnt and disfigured to the point where she hates Chucky. She doesn't want Chucky, and so he tosses that Chucky doll, that good guy doll, down the trash compactor, and Chucky ends up in a vial of in a vat of used, half-used medical syringes, which Chucky gives his God I love hospitals because he's getting high on his own supply. But the new trio formed, Jake, Devin, and Lexi, go down to that trash bin and try to poke around and see if they can find Chucky to see if they can dispose of him because after she finds out that her dad just tossed him away, they're like, well, then we need to end this. So they go down there, but they can't find him. No luck. He's gone. Nowhere to be seen. So they return to school and they kind of are nervous and like, what do we do? What do we have to do to get this taken care of? Uh, in that, the teacher's kind of giving this whole rigmarole of like, hey, I know you guys have taken some laws, so don't take this too hard on yourselves. If you need somebody to talk to, I'm here for you guys. Meanwhile, there's this clique that's sort of forming between Jake, Lexi, and Devin that Junior is sort of on the outside of, and he doesn't like that. He comes over and he's trying to get in, trying to figure out what's going on, trying to figure out what they know and why they're that way. Um, they ask Lexi, do you think we should bring him in on this? And she's like, no, he doesn't have the imagination for this. He's just going to throw it away. He's not going to believe us and he's going to call us BS. So they end up splitting, and Jake and Devin are kind of on their thing, having a moment. They have a moment in the high school where Jake kind of just says, I just feel so much coming down on me. I'm not focused. Everything's sort of freaking out. And Devin holds his hand and says, hey, bring all that stuff to the servers, and I'm just going to hold your hand, and we're kind of going to sit through this together. While this rush is coming over you, I'm going to be here with you, and we're going to get through this together. You have a pretty cool shot of the two of them standing in high school, and everything is sped up around them. Almost, I keep harkening it back to Scrubs. Scrubs did that speed up while everything goes around you type of mode camera shot quite a bit. That's what it sort of did here. Lexi goes back home, and her parents they're not effing with her. Mainly her mom. Her mom is saying she's on punishment. She's blaming her for this. The mom is also saying that she is going to have the town pay for their house being repaired, and it'll be ready by New Year's Eve. Husband's not really going for that. He's starting to sort of balls up a little bit, but not to the way that he needs to, because he has gotten a new good guy doll for Caroline, so that she will stop complaining about Chucky, and it's Tommy. The doll's name is Tommy. Oh my God, Tommy! So second Lexi sees Tommy, she just freaks out. She's just bashing in the head and she's like beating it up and just choking it out, and then she takes a photo of it to show to send to the boys, Devin and Jake, to kind of just let them know that there is a new good guy doll that's here. But I've beaten it up. It is not Chucky. We're good. What we then get is we see outside the window of Caroline's bedroom when she is asleep with Tommy that burnt Chucky, our Chucky, is on the window, kind of just staring in, looking lovingly at his new form. And then the next shot that we see is of Caroline's dad picking up burnt Chucky, seeing the Chucky, that one is in there, kind of questioning, like, how the hell did this get back here? And as he's exiting out of the house, Lexi sees burnt Chucky in his hands. And she's like, how the hell did that come back? He goes to take that in the trash, and she checks the boys, like, I need to get over here ASAP, because it's going down. They're on their ET bikes with lights coming over, and meanwhile Lexi is kind of mad in the trash can that she believes her dad has put him in and not letting it go. And they come up with this plan to sort of do a scoop and tie to open up the trash can. And they do so, and then they gang stomp Chucky. You hear the battery die. They beat the shit out of it. They think they have conquered the day. But we all know, this is only episode 5, there's no way that they have conquered the day. But they go on about their day. They think everything's fine. Devin and Jake share a kiss after an awkward kiss, but a kiss nonetheless. They're young teens, so it's going to be awkward no matter what. And Lexi sort of feels good about herself, and they go on about their day. They think everything is fine. There's an assembly that takes place at school to sort of show remorse and show from the town folks show remorse, and from the police officer detective to show remorse for all the people that have been lost. But for Caroline and Lexi's mom, it's be a fundraiser, so to speak, for her home. And that's when Detective Evans sees that Jake and Devin are holding hands, and she's not too cool with that. But what we get is she introduces the principal to say some words to sort of calm everybody down, and all of a sudden you see the principal's head roll out, and calamity ensues. Everybody's freaking out, and then you get a shot of a completely 100% okay Chucky bringing up the ropes and bringing curtains open to show that there is a decapitated body with 2 thumbs up sitting in the chair as the principal has been recently decapitated. And then we get a flashback sequence of Chucky looking in the mirror, coming in the room after after we see the shot of him outside the window, coming in the room and doing his classic Doombala chant to take his possession of his soul into the new doll so that he doesn't look like, as he says, a tuna melt. So that's how we still have a current good-looking good guy doll on this episode. That's everything that happens in present day. Let's talk about the past. We get a wonderful flashback sequence here with Fiona Dourif finally here playing Charles Lee Ray. She's playing the character that her dad used to play and looks uncannily like him. It gets a little odd, but I think that's also okay because they're trying to show that line break. But when he's actually in the past, you see it, and she has those mannerisms that obviously looks like him, and it plays well. They dubbed over her voice with Charles Lee Ray's voice, with Brad Dourif's voice, so that she can play Charles Lee. But you get to see him on a night in the town when he gets a hold of a woman who seems to be very aggressive and very violent, and sort of they start going on this killing spree together. We get another sequence where it looks like they have brought home a young redhead lady, and they sort of start going into killing her. Then when Charles Lee is about to attack this young redhead, after Delilah has sort of set up everything and teed it off, the young girl begs for the death. It's like she begs for the killing. And in that, Charles Lee Ray gets sort of turned on and then kills Delilah instead and stabs the hell out of her, and then asks if the young redhead will come on and help her out. And it's at that point that we start hearing the redhead's voice change, and it becomes Jennifer Tilly. So we're starting to see the birth and creation of this Charles Lee Tiffany scenario. It is a little weird to see Tiffany's voice, to hear Jennifer Tilly's voice be attached to this young lady, just because it came out of nowhere, and it feels a little jarring. But if we're already dubbing Brad Dourif's voice onto Fiona, sure, I can play in this world. Everything gets right to that. This show gets very close to that edge of being silly without kind of like going all the way over. So there's a little bit of a play there, but it still works. But we then continue on, and they've been doing this for a while. And now we get into just present day, where we see what looks to be like Charles Lee Ray, but obviously we know in present day Charles Lee is not around. But we get a Jennifer Tilly on screen finally as Tiffany in present day. So she's aged up as the current Jennifer Tilly, um, with some deaths on her hand, and she's making out with a woman who is wearing a long sleeve shirt and bra and panties, but it's Fiona Dourif playing Nika Pierce. So we get Tiffany and Nika both present, but Nika is still possessed by a piece of Chucky's soul. So what sort of, for those who don't know, what sort of happened within Cult of Chucky is that we start seeing that Chucky can place pieces of his soul. He may not put his entirety thing, but he may play pieces of his soul, so that person can go in and out of sort of consciousness of being Charles Lee Ray. They're not always Chucky. Most of the time they are, but they go in and out of it because he's not 100% into that. And most of him is still in the Chucky dial. And so that's sort of what takes place with the Cult of Chucky. So Cult of Chucky has Nika Pierce, who is played by Fiona Dourif, who is a paraplegic. She's in a wheelchair. So what we get here is we get a sequence where when she is not on or possessed by Charles Lee, she can't walk. She is completely invalid and has no idea really what's happening. But she is cognizant of that Charles Lee's done this, that Chucky's part of that is in there. She questions the second she gains consciousness, that's there a good guy doll around here because she knows what's going on. But the second that Tiffany comes back in the room, she switches right back to Charles Lee Ray. She stands up tall and she kind of gets back into it. They have their makeout session and they kill him. After she tells all this stuff to this guy, she comes back in. It's like, well, I can't let you know anybody. This secret stays with us, and she slits the dude's throat. So Nika is full on serial killer mode as a version or a facsimile of what Charles Lee Ray is. It's interesting that tie left and she was able to sort of get out of consciousness when Tiffany was gone and then sort of gain it back when Tiffany returned. So I'm wondering if that soul is peaked whenever Tiffany's around. Like if she's gone, she can kind of get out of it and go back to being Nika. I wonder if Tiffany is sort of that catalyst that brings her back. But we're here. We're in episode 5 and we got both Tiffany and Nika. So we're getting all of the lore of Chucky and Child's Play kind of brought into one. And as we continue on, the only person really left that we need to really see is Andy. So once we get there, we got everybody who's been a part of this life here. I know this episode's going to be a little bit jarring for folks who have not followed on with Cult. I suggest you go watch them. The last 2 Child's Play films are actually really well done, and Cult of Chucky is a direct tie to this. So I think if you see that and watch that, they give you a couple of flash points of it to kind of catch you up to if you weren't aware. But I think you do yourself a disservice if you don't watch those. Go ahead and check those out, and then watch this, and I think everything will make a little bit more sense to you overall. But I think Fiona nails it as playing Brad, as recreating Charles Lee Ray, and then we sort of get that blend and mesh together to this weird world where she's now playing this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde version with Tiffany seemingly being the catalyst. The episode is called Little Lies because there is what I believed was that Bree, Junior's mom, was having an affair, which still could be the case, because she still seems to be unhappy in her relationship, and Caroline's dad still seems to be just unhappy there. It is the actual lie is that she's not told her family that she's suffering from stage 4 cancer, which based on the way that Chucky gave that, like, I know something you don't know, I don't necessarily know if that is something that he would. I feel like it's going to be something more salacious that he was letting on. So I think she has that and still is having that affair, because I feel like he wouldn't try to hold that over her head. He may, but I just feel like that's a little too clean of a way. Like he needs something a little bit more with a little bit more filth on it. But we're here at episode 5 with only 3 episodes left to go on the board, and we got Nika and Tiffany now in play. So we're starting to get some more friends and foes to Chucky, and this world that he sort of has is folding in. I do think that with us having Major 3 and then another person with Junior, and then their parents, someone's going to Major has to die in these next couple episodes to sort of keep the momentum going. What we got here was this episode was a sort of a bottle episode where no one really got it outside of the principal, who was this tertiary character. You didn't really care about them. The main point of this episode was to, one, bring the lore that has sort of existed over from Child's Play and Chucky over the last few years in together, bring everybody, catch everybody up so we're all in on the same level, and get Chucky from one form to another so that we can kind of restart and continue on with the rest of the season. But yeah, all in all, another fun episode. I think if you have not watched Curse and Cult of Chucky, you should just do yourself a favor and do that, because it looks like Andy's going to be in the next episode, and Andy does pop up in those two films with Nika, and so I think you might want to get a little bit more familiar with how they connect already before we get there, because there's going to be some signal of that they already know each other, and you as an audience member, if you've never seen those two, might be like, how the fuck do they know each other? So you might want to watch those to catch that up. But all in all, they're killing it again. I'm excited. I can't wait till next week. What did you guys think about this last episode of Chucky, Little Lies? Go ahead and leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name. It's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any other place podcasts. We're there. But like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.